You're connected. Tico, you're connected to Facebook. Tinatin. Tinatin.
Greetings to everyone. მოგესალმებით ყველას. გაეროს ბავშვთა ფონდის მხარდაჭერით არასამთავრობო ორგანიზაცია Helping Hand აგრძელებს საერთაშორისო ვებინარების ციკლს მოხალისეობაზე და ახალგაზრდული მოხალისეობის საკითხებზე. დღეს ჩვენ გვყავს ძალიან საინტერესო მრავალწლიანი გამოცდილების მქონე მოხალისეობის ექსპერტი, ქალბატონი პამელა კარგი და ასევე ჩვენი პროექტის ახალგაზრდული მოხალისეობა COVID-19 საპასუხოდ საქართველოში მოხალისეები, აქტიური მონაწილეები. პირველ რიგში ძალიან დიდ მადლობას მოგახსენებთ თითოეულ თქვენთაგანს, რომ ამ გამწვავებული COVID პანდემიის სიტუაციაში ახერხებთ, რომ დრო დაუთმოთ მოხალისეობას და აქტიურად ხართ მოხალისეობის საკითხებში ჩართულები და ასევე thank you dear Pam for your great contribution and for your willingness to support Georgian youth and Georgia to promote and to develop volunteerism in our country. I really appreciate it and thank you once again for your great support. And now I will give floor to you.
Okay, thank you. Gamarjoba.
Gamarjoba.
Rogora har. Kargat, ha. Okay. Well, greetings to all of you, and thank you for joining us here today to talk about volunteerism and how important it is for you as young people to be involved. Who's translating? Tico.
I think most of us understand.
Oh, yeah. You do?
So we will do in a chat translation, otherwise it will take too long.
Okay, very good.
So go ahead, please go ahead and we will work on it inside our chat.
Okay, and if somebody does not understand, please feel free to raise your hand and Tico or somebody can help you understand. But it's really a pleasure to be with you today and to be a part of this program since before it started, because Tico and I have been friends for many years. And then earlier this year, when she said that she was going to have this program, this special program during COVID, I was just so excited and have helped out a little bit where necessary. So I want to talk to you today just a little bit about volunteering as young people. You know, I moved to the Caucasus area in 2004 as a volunteer. I plan to stay here for 6 weeks, and I'm still here. So my 6 weeks has turned into 16 years now. And of course, I still need to do things like pay the rent or my mobile phone or the gas because it's getting cold. And so I do have some jobs that I'm able to do online so that I can make some money to pay all the bills. And I'm very fortunate in that. But for the most part, I spend most of my time as a volunteer. And of course, that's been very difficult during these COVID times. But in preparing for today, I actually did just a little bit of Googling. And I just saw a recent report out of the UK that talks about the fact that during COVID times, youth volunteering has risen 30 to 40%. That's 30 to 40%. Volunteerism has risen amongst youth. Now, at the same time, volunteerism has dropped about 10% for people age 50 and older. And of course, we can understand that because the older people get, the less likely they are going to be to continue their volunteer programs. For example, my mother is 81 and she is living in America right now. And she has not done any of her volunteer work since March. She used to go shopping at a huge warehouse to get food and then take it to our church kitchen. We have a kitchen in our church at home. And she would cook meals for about 75 people who would come to the church every Sunday for a free meal. So she's not doing the shopping, she's not doing the cooking, she's not doing the serving. The program continues thanks to younger people getting involved, but she can't do that because she has some pre-existing conditions and cannot go out and mingle with people as she used to do. So it becomes even more important that as we see fewer older people volunteering, that we have more young people like you who are willing to lend a helping hand. So you have to understand when I first got, okay, so that I have full transparency. Right now, I am sitting outside of Yerevan. So I am, yeah. I'm in Armenia, and you cannot imagine. You can imagine if you're old enough. You remember 2016 when everybody in Tbilisi became a volunteer because of the flood. Right? You can recall that. That was just 4 years ago. And so all of you are old enough to remember some parts of that. Now imagine our situation down here. And I don't go out a lot, but the little bit that I have gone into Yerevan, and what I see on my Facebook feed and the different calls I'm getting, I bet you Armenia right now has 75, 80, 90% volunteerism going. Because, we have all the people coming over here to get out of harm's way. And so people are housing families. Last night, somebody needed some things for babies to push them, and to carry them. I just saw something, they need toys for children because, of course, our schools are closed because our COVID cases are so high. And so now there was a call put out that we need toys for children because the children who came from Karabakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, I can say this, right? The people who came from Nagorno-Karabakh, especially the children, have nothing to do because there's no school. If there was school and we knew how long this would be, of course, we'd want to keep children on some kind of a schedule, or we would have other young people doing some tutoring with them and such. But we don't know, and schools are closed, so it's a very difficult time. So now they need toys, and other times they need a bed, or they need some food, or whatever it is. And you've seen this yourselves in your community. When some kind of disaster happens, then everybody needs to pitch in and help. So I came here in 2004, and I was going to stay for 6 weeks and have now been here for 16 years. And part of my time here was spent teaching at the Agriculture University, where I actually developed a big mafia in Tbilisi and a big mafia in Batumi, and plus Armenians. And this was a special program down here in Yerevan that included both Georgians and Armenians. So, and then I lived in Vashlijvari for the past couple of years. Sami Karpusi, Vashlijvari, Sami Zoni, Sami Sap. Okay, so I could tell the taxi driver where I was going.
Yeah.
And I have my first Georgian family actually lives out in Galdani. So I'm very familiar with Georgia a lot. And when I got here a few times, I was asked to talk to young people just like all of you. And I would go and, you know, okay, we're on Facebook, but I'll say it anyway. So when I first got here, not now, but when I first got here, this was Armenian young people when you talk about volunteerism. Because, and you can ask your parents too, and that was because the idea of a volunteer was not something that was valued. Here I was working for free, and what am I, Debil, do boy to pizza? Because I'm working, but I'm not getting paid. So I must not be a very intelligent or very capable person, because why would a person work for free? And that comes from Soviet times, where everybody had a job and nobody really did a whole lot if they were not being paid. But actually, I have always been a volunteer. I have been a volunteer at least 50 years, 50 years. And I started as a volunteer at my school, at my Deprots, and through the Girl Scouts. Does everybody know what Girl Scouts are? Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. They okay, it doesn't matter. It's like the old Soviet pioneers, if you know about them, okay? And so we would work on skills and get little badges that we could put on our little uniforms. But a part of what we had to also do was community service to help other people around us. So it started that way. And then as I got older, I became involved in my church and our youth group at church. And then we would start helping the older people in our community. I used to work, and I call my volunteer time as work, because I might be a volunteer and I might not be paid for my work, but I take it very professionally, and I'm always trying to do my very best. Whether you give me 1 penny, $1 million, or 1 tetri, 10 tetri, $1 million, or I do it for free. It doesn't matter. I always want to be doing my best. And so I worked for some elderly people for a couple years. And what did I do? I cleaned their house. They were not able to clean their house anymore. And so I went there at least twice a month and I cleaned their house. And you might say, oh, well, I don't like cleaning. It's a lot of fun when you're not cleaning your own house. You know, if you're cleaning your friend's house or your neighbor's house, much more interesting than if you have to clean your room. Yeah, a lot more. So I've been volunteering all my life, up through university, and then even when I was working full-time, I was still always volunteering some way, somehow. But why do people volunteer? You know, and that was the hard part when I first got here and was talking to young people about volunteering. They're like, well, why would you work for free? And who cares? And oh, but really, there are so many reasons why people volunteer. One reason is that, of course, I was the recipient of people who were volunteers in my life. My friends' mothers had time to volunteer to be the leaders of our group. My mother worked all the time, so she could not always volunteer at an event, but she could bake cakes so that I could take it to the event, for example. And so I always wanted to volunteer because people had always volunteered to make my life that better as a leader of my group, as the adult leader. And so I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to help the next generation, like all of you. Now, that's great, and that's a good reason to do it. But there are other reasons too. Sometimes we see a need in our community and it's not being taken care of. I'll give you a great example. I'm really tired of staying in the house. And you are too, right? A lot of you, yes, no. You can get out a little bit. You've done a better job in Georgia than we have done down here. That's great. So I was tired of staying in the house, and I'm living in a village. And so I would go over to the village park. And, you know, like a lot of village parks in Georgia, in Armenia, there's a World War II monument there, right? There's some kind of statue or something. And I was sitting there, very nice big trees, kind of a cool place too, because I can see Mount Ararat out my window right now. So I'm down in the lower part and it gets very warm. It's like being down by Rustaveli, you know, on the Rustaveli street down there. It can be kind of hot sometimes compared to when I was living in Vashli Jvati, where it was always nice and cool. So I would go and sit in the park. Well, my first few times there were so many flies. It was dirty. There was zebil, trash, litter, whatever word you know. There was litter all over the place. And there are some irrigation canals that run around this little park area too. And they had, but the really, and that comes and goes with the water. But the really bad part was just that this park was being neglected. So I decided in the month of July that I was tired of sitting in a dirty park. So I started picking up the trash. I picked up 30 90-liter bags of trash. Plus, I borrowed a rake from my friends. You know what a rake is? You know, the thing you use, like you rake up the leaves. And then I borrowed also a shears. It's like a scissors, but it's for trees, okay, and bushes. So I borrowed that. So besides my 30 90-liter bags of trash, I also started thinning out all of the trees and everything to get some air moving so we would not have problems with mosquitoes and flies. I can't tell you how many huge piles of old trees and small trees and weeds and all kinds of things that I hauled out of there. I really cannot tell you, but I do have it posted on my Facebook page, and you can go through and find that. And why did I do it? I was being very selfish. The only reason I did it is because I wanted a nice place to sit. And every day I would go there, not every day. Someday I would go every couple days. And I would really get angry because there were all these old men sitting in the park, smoking cigarettes and playing nardi. I'm not sure what you call it up there. Backgammon, nardi, huh? And so they're all sitting there and they were always watching me. Here I am, a babushka, and they're watching me do all of this work. And I mean, I'm hauling huge things all the time in these big bags filled with stuff. And they would just watch me. And I would just get so angry. But I thought, no, I want a nice place to sit. Well, then finally, at the last day or two of my trying to clean up a big part of the park, they finally kind of raked their area where they sit under a shelter and play nardi and smoke and they sort of raked up their area. So they did help a little bit, and they lit a match once or twice to burn some of the stuff, which isn't the best, but. And then I told them in Armenian, when I come to this park, I want to see this clean from now on. Because they were sitting there playing and they would take their cigarettes and, just throw it on the ground. So the area where the shelter where they were playing, all around it, there were cigarette butts and vodka bottles and beer bottles and plastic bags. You know this, I know this. When I lived at Vashlijvadi and I'd walk down to the bus stop, I would see the same thing. So it's very similar, the two places. But I decided on my own, I needed to clean up this park. And I don't really know any people in the village, so I had to do it myself. Now imagine you go to your village park or the park in your neighborhood, and you just say, okay, that's enough. We need to clean this up because no mothers and no children were really coming to this park. Only the old men were there because it was just awful. And then even the monument was not taken care of. There were trees growing there already, and the trees were not part of the original design. And so I told them, you have to keep this clean. They have kept it clean. And even by raking it and such, they had some of the grass has started to come back, and it's a very nice park. And more people are going there. But I also did not just do it for me. I also did it because I wanted to show people. In Georgia is a little bit similar culture. Sometimes you need to do things because you know it's the right thing to do. And in doing it, some other people start to feel uncomfortable. They start to maybe feel a little embarrassed. They think that, oh, maybe I should be doing that. Or why is that woman who's not even Armenian, isn't even from our village, why is she cleaning our park? And sometimes, you can hear me okay, or is that making noise? Can you hear okay? Okay. So sometimes we need to do it because we need to set a good example. We need to be a role model for other people. But now imagine you doing the same thing that I did. You have friends. You have friends in your building. You have friends in your block. You have friends from your deprots, from your university. Imagine if you decided, we're going to clean this park. And it doesn't have to be a big park. It can be a little park. We're going to clean this. And you had 4 other friends. All you need are gloves, your hands clean, because some of the litter can be really bad. And some plastic bags. That's all you need to clean a place. If you wanted to, cut everything and such, you could do that. But it would take you a couple hours. It took me a month and I was exhausted. But you can have a huge impact just in a couple hours working with some of your friends. And I'm not looking for, I was not trying to get anybody to tell me, oh, thank you, thank you. To this day, the village head has not said anything to me about cleaning the park. A few other people have, and the men who sit there all the time, because I'm always checking on them, they're always like, oh, Takin, which means babushka, grandma, Takin, John, Takin. So they're saying thank you, and yes, we're keeping it clean. But you have such a huge impact in just that little way. And then what happens? Mothers and children start to come back, because when things are clean, that gives them something to do. And during this time of COVID, when we're all stuck at home, when the kids might have to be learning virtually, we at least can have a clean place so people can get out and walk there, or the kids can get out there and spend a little bit of time, so they're not in the house driving their parents crazy. Now, something else that I used to do as a young person, and I know it's been very important right now, is just tutoring. Now, what is tutoring? Tutoring is when you work with a student younger than you, or who's having problems where maybe you're very smart in mathematics. You could be my tutor, because all of my students know I hate math. So if I had to do some math work, I would want a tutor, because I hate math, and somebody can come, one of you, as even a young person, can come and help tutor with my math problems. And so tutoring, especially now, is becoming so important, because parents who are working are also trying to, they're working, a woman, she's working, she's trying to keep the house clean, she's trying to make meals, and now she also has to do lessons. I have a lot of women friends who are going crazy, both people I know here in Armenia, but also women friends in America, women friends in Uganda, women friends in Kenya. There's so much more that has to be done when now you're trying to work and you're trying to make sure that your kids are learning. And so here you are as young people who probably know quite a few things already, don't you? And you could be tutoring kids who are younger than you. And you don't have to make a big, huge formal program. You just knock on your neighbor's door, even if you don't like them, but you know the kids are there, and she's trying to work and clean house and cook and do the wash, and then knock on the door and say, can I just, do your kids need some help with, Georgian? We can help do a little Georgian vocabulary. It doesn't have to be anything difficult. Doesn't even have to be English. It can just be Georgian or Armenian. Oh, no, I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. Or maybe that mother and father, mother mostly, and even a grandma, maybe they just need to, maybe they need 30 minutes by themselves just to walk, just to take a bath, just silence. And you could easily say, okay, I'll take your children down to the clean park, and we can just go for a walk and play and give you just some personal time. That helps people with their mental health. And again, none of these are huge, big projects, but really what it requires is that you look around and you see what do people need? And that's the hardest part. I mean, I live in a village right now that has several thousand people, and the park was dirty, but nobody could see it. They would look at it and say, oh, well, the park's always dirty. So what? But you have new eyes, you have young eyes, you have dreams of how you want the world to be. And so you need to look at the world and say, what is it I don't like? What is it I can change? What could I do to help somebody else? But the other part of volunteering is not just helping others and giving back. It's also, how can I feel wanted? Right? You're probably all feeling, even in Georgia, where you've done a good job with COVID, nothing is still normal, right? It's still not the best like it was before. There's nobody meeting at the McDonald's and hanging out there by the water fountain and, just going. It's just nothing is right. So you need to also find ways where you can feel appreciated, where you can get out of the house in a safe way and still engage with people and feel appreciated, feel wanted, feel connected to other people. That is so important because older people don't have as many options as you do. They might have some health conditions that are keeping them in the house, and you're able to get out. And so get out, and by volunteering, you're able to help keep your mental health going. Your life is not normal, but at least you're able to interact with people. You're able to get outside. You're able to, whatever it is, go for a hike, all of those things. You don't have to worry about your health as much as old people like me have to worry, or my mother, who is 81. So it's good for us to volunteer because it gives us a sense of purpose. It gives us a sense of being wanted and being appreciated. And that's so important just for ourselves, because we all need to get something out of volunteering. We can't just volunteer, to be the good person, to do this. We have to get something. That's just human nature, that we should get something in all of this too. Every time that you tell Chico, oh, thank you for this program, she's getting something out of this experience because you're showing appreciation. So there you go. Now let's talk about old people a little bit more, huh? There might be people who cannot go shopping. Now, my mother, she gets to order her groceries online because, in America, we have everything. She has everything. They have big TVs. They got a gazillion channels on their television. They have Wi-Fi most places. They can order anything online. They can have people deliver all of it, right? America has everything. Georgia, Armenia, we don't have everything. I live in a village. I was living up in the mountains during the first part of COVID, and now I'm in a village, and now I'm in another village. In the mountain village and in this village, there was one restaurant. They don't have takeaway. They don't have delivery. They don't have Bolt to have the taxi bring it to me, or Yandex. There was nothing. One restaurant, and for most of the time it was closed. And so sometimes I get tired of cooking for myself. I know I like to eat, but I get tired of having to cook. And it would have been nice once in a while if, I don't know, some little boy or some little girl would have said, hey, Tatik, babushka, can I like go to the restaurant and bring you some? Or if I knew somebody I could call and say, oh, please, can you go and, just get me a shashlik or something so that I can not have to cook for myself tonight? So think about that as well. I mean, there are elderly people now who cannot go to the apteka, who cannot go to the supermarkets. And so they might be, again, right next door to you. They might be in your building. Um, it's all those little things that are really helping. My mother has a friend, a younger friend, who now my sister's son lives with my mother, so I don't want you to think she's living alone. Because if she was alone, then I would go back to America and be there. But she also has some other friends. And when their gardens were doing so well this summer, then they would bring her tomatoes, cucumbers, some lobe, whatever they had extra of, they would bring it. And for the first few months, early on in May and June, they would just leave it on her, we call it a porch. Do you know what a porch is? It's like a balcony, but she lives in an individual house. And so it's like a balcony, but you come onto that balcony to come into the house. Okay. So that's a porch. And a veranda is another word for porch. So they would leave it on the porch, and then she would just pick it up, bring it in the house, clean it, and then she'd have it. Then after some time now, the people who she really trusts, she'll sit on the back porch with them. They'll wear their masks and they'll still social distance. But that has been a huge addition to my mother's life. She used to only talk through the window to people, but now they're actually sitting on the porch. And for elderly people, you see stories all the time on how difficult this isolation has been for elderly people. Are you calling your own grandmas and grandpas? Okay, I know. They're going to tell you the same story they have told you a million times already. But that's okay. You're young. You'll get over it. No, you're young. And someday when you're old, you're going to tell the same stories a million times. My mother tells me the same stories, and I call her once or twice a week. And for weeks on end, she will tell me the same story. That's okay. That's okay. Because it's just her time to connect with me, to make sure I'm okay, to tell me her secrets. I can tell her my secrets. I can find out old family stories, whatever it is. So, and that gives me great joy to be able to give my mother that great joy. And I know I'm being appreciated and everything else. So we need to think about ourselves too. And it's the only time for days that I'll talk to anybody or talk to anybody in English. Now imagine that. I'm a very outgoing person. Tico can tell you that. But I can go for days and not talk to anyone. And so there are elderly people like that living somewhere near you. It might even be some of your relatives. So everything we do doesn't need to be really big. But sometimes some of the things we do need to be big. We're going to pick a big park, or we have our whole class wants to get together and do some kind of a project. That takes more organization. And Tico's been, you've been part of this program. And so you've been going through the different steps that you need to do to get people involved, to assess the needs, what needs to be done, get people involved, how to find money, all of those topics are going on through this program. But sometimes we don't need to have that big, huge program, and we can just have something very tiny that really touches somebody else's heart and makes such a huge difference in their lives. So I've talked enough. Some of you are falling asleep. I know you do not have your camera on, but I can see that your eyes are closing. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Or do you have a problem and you want some advice? I love to give my opinions.
Oh, no. I want to say something.
Please raise your hand so we can give everyone opportunity to ask the question. So just raise the hand and go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add just one other thing really quickly? You know, I know everybody wants to study, not everybody, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people want to study abroad. And, you know, I always tell my Armenian students that going to Georgia is studying abroad. They're like, Miss Pam, we mean like, you know, America, Europe. Okay, I'll tell you Georgians, studying in Armenia is studying abroad. Miss Pam, we want to go. I understand. But more and more universities do not care about your grades as much as they want to see that you are a well-rounded person. Now, I worked at the Agriculture University here, and I was part of the people who interviewed not Georgians, but Armenians who were enrolling. We had a separate group of people who interviewed Georgians coming here to study. And they want to see not just that you memorized everything from the book, but they also want to see how have you contributed to your community, but also what were you involved with in the community where you were able to make yourself a bigger person than just what is in the books. That becomes so important, especially when you get out of this region and you want to go to Europe, or you want to study at a university in Africa or in Central or South America or Canada. You know, it's not just the books, because I can memorize anything and look like the smartest person. But if I get into the classroom and I cannot have a discussion, or I cannot think outside of what the books tell me, then I'm a very shallow person in many areas, because people want to see a better rounded person, someone who's involved in their community and has thoughts beyond just what's in the books. So, Lisa, you had a question. Yes, you. Yeah. You.
Yes. Oh, I want to say something. Firstly, you are the strongest person I have ever met, and you are a great motivator for me. And I'm very interested. What gives you so much motivation to do your job like this, and what is your inspiration? Because sometimes I lost my inspiration, motivation to do something, and you are a strongest and powerful woman, and you are full of life. And what is the reason of this, and what gives you those inspiration and motivation? Can you tell me?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple tricks I do. Actually, people think that I'm strong and motivating and everything, but I'm kind of lazy and can talk and a procrastinator. You know, lazy, the word procrastinator means that if it's due at 6 o'clock, I'm going to work on it as soon as I get done with this, right? At the very last minute.
Yes, I know.
So what I do sometimes is to kind of keep myself motivated. Okay, I need to do this thing. I need to write this report. I need to clean my house. And then when I'm done, I can have some Georgian wine. Oh, wait, you're young people. You don't drink wine. Okay.
Oh, little bit we drink.
I know, it's a joke. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I have to do this thing, and then I can have a Snickers bar, right?
Yeah.
Or I can have some morozhny or ice cream, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm giving myself little rewards.
No.
Also, I try to have little jobs and big jobs.
Oh.
So like, okay, I have this big report that I told them, I've been working on it for a month. I told them I'll have it done by Sunday. And I have these other little jobs. So sometimes I will do a couple little jobs just to feel like I'm getting stuff done. But I don't want to do that too much because then I'm not getting the big job done. The other thing is a friend of mine here, her name is Gohar.
Wow. Yeah.
And when I came here to volunteer, I used to get really frustrated because I'm American. And this is Georgia and this is Armenia. And you do things differently than what I'm used to or what I used to be used to in America. And I would just get so, like my head would explode.
Oh.
And then she said, Pam John, you need to make a decision.
Yeah, so much.
If it's so difficult, then just go home. But remember that other people also have difficulties. And if you're going to create difficulties, they don't need that on top of their difficulties. And you know, your parents' lives were very difficult. You know, since 91, people that remember 91 and the breakup and everything, all those people have enough difficulties. They don't need my difficulties. So I've always remembered that. And it's like, you know what, if it gets to be too bad, or I go, not bad, but if I go too crazy, then I just move to Tbilisi for a couple years and have a rest. Whoa. And then when the Georgians drive me too crazy, I move back down to Armenia. So, and that you cannot move, but you can move in your mind. You can say, okay, now I really don't like doing this anymore. And then just say, you know what, but be professional about it, be responsible, and just say, you know what, next month, this is going to be my last month doing this because I just don't like it anymore. And then look for something else. But I like to give myself rewards. I like to mix big and little things, just so if I'm not in the mood for a big thing, I'll do some little things to just keep moving forward. And at the end of the day, you have to decide what puts passion in your heart. What is revolutionary in your life that you think, yes, this is what I want to do.
Wow, these gives me so big power.
And you know, the other thing too is sometimes what you're going to volunteer to do might not even be something that is going to be revolutionary, or it's not going to be like your passion that you absolutely love. I have a friend here who was staying at home. She's an international woman, staying at home, but she knew that her daughter was old enough that pretty soon she's going to have to find a job. And she did not feel like she had any skills. So she was a part of our international women's group. And she became the treasurer because she knows how to count. I mean, 1, 2, 3, something, something, Sammy, something, something, whatever, Oti, Uti, Sammy. She knows how to count. And so she became the treasurer of our club. And she did a really good job. And then when she left the country because her husband got a different job, Then she said, could you write a letter of recommendation? And I said, I would be honored to do that. Here she was, volunteer treasurer in our club. She learned so many new skills because she'd have to work with the bank and all of these other things too. And so I wrote her a recommendation. And when they went to the next country where they're going to live, she got a job working in, like, you know, just basic bookkeeping and stuff at a little organization because she had acquired those skills. So sometimes the things that you start to do might not be, oh, I love numbers, I love math, I love money, I love to count. It might not be that. But by serving as the treasurer, she got those skills, she had more insight, and so she could apply for a job and say, I have a little bit of bookkeeping experience. So that's how I stay motivated. That's how I just like to keep trying. Any other questions from anyone? Come on.
What was the funniest experience you had doing the volunteering?
I'm sorry, what was the which experience?
Funniest.
Funnest? Wow. The most fun I've ever had. Oh, you know what? So, and you have this in Georgia too. Again, it's the International Women's Club up in Georgia. And we have one of those here too. I think that's probably one of the funnest things I've done in recent years, was doing that, because we had a Christmas bazaar, or a holiday bazaar, Christmas bazaar. And we opened up a children's room where people could bring their children while they went off shopping. And we do some arts and crafts and crazy whatever stuff with them just to occupy their time. And then Santa, of course, would come. And so those were always fun times for me. Very tiring, very exhausting, but I would also get my students from the agriculture university involved because they needed to also do some volunteer kinds of activities in the community. And that's how I started to get my students involved. I just said, hey, I want an hour and a half, 2 hours of your time on this Saturday at the Marriott Hotel. Nice place, right? The one in Tbilisi, the one here too. So I want you to come and, you know, help us in just 2 hours. And all you have to do is play with kids. I mean, how simple is that? And how much fun that is to play with kids, right? You can sit and color and cut things, and I mean, wow, that's like, everyone loves to do that kind of stuff. I think some of the you know, I've had a lot of different experiences, and I also today, for example, I was on another Zoom because I'm doing some volunteer work in Mozambique, Africa right now, with some farmers who raise chickens, and they want to put together a strategic plan. And so I have some business experience, and so we're going to put together over the next several weeks, we're going to meet and we're going to put together a strategic plan. You know, I talked to the young accountants in Tbilisi the last time I was up there. Well, it was maybe it was about a year ago already. I met with them, and we talked about volunteerism there as well. And, you know, you might already have some skills that you do. These were all people who knew statistics and knew economics, and, you know, they are already in university. And so I'm like, well, then volunteer that skill to some organization. You know, Helping Hand would love to have somebody do surveys for them, or to find out the current, do all the research to put together all the current economics of, I don't know, whatever. Chico, you decide. And so there might be some things that you already do. And and often I like to do things like that. I like to use my communication skills of writing and photography, and to use those with organizations, and just to donate that time, because I'm helping somebody. I've helped Tico a couple times. She appreciates it. And it's just a skill that I already have, and it takes me a few minutes, but it means the world to her, because then, you know, the English is all cleaned up and everything and no problems. And so, yeah, you can just do little things like that. But I think being with the kids is probably the best. That has been the best for me. I used to teach Sunday school too, and teaching here at university. And I used to have interns, or they would do practicum at our business. And yeah, it's nice to work with young people, I think, all the time. That's how I stay young. See, you got to have young people around you so you can stay young. Otherwise, you know, I'm 61 years old, 61. And I don't think I'm 61, but when I go outside, you know, they're like, Tati, Tati, babushka, babushka. But in my heart, I don't feel old, because I just try to stay young, and being around young people helps. Any other questions? You can friend me on Facebook if you want.
Yes, I will.
You can see the video where in April I shaved my head bald. I was completely bald. Then, you know, another time I had no clothes on, and I had my food, and I had my mask on, because people were complaining about wearing a mask to the shop. And I'm like, but you have to wear a shirt to the shop. So it looked like I was naked, no clothes. And yeah, sometimes I do crazy things, but that also helps keep me motivated, you know, and just so.
Thank you very much, Miss Pam. It was really, really interesting for us. And again, we are so happy to know you and to host you today, our webinar. And hopefully we will continue to work again together. Yeah. Hopefully you will still continue to support me and Georgian as a volunteer.
Well, you know,
and hopefully, yeah, we will do our best.
As soon as the you know, okay, so the Armenian border is closed due to COVID, and the Georgia border is also closed due to COVID. And I thought a couple times already that I was going to be in Tbilisi or Batumi during all of these months. As soon as that border opens, I'm coming to Georgia. I'm going to spend a day or two in Tbilisi, and then I'm going to Signagi. Don't call me when I'm in Signagi. I will not be able to talk. I have an American friend married to a Georgian man there, and I'm going to go and spend some time doing absolutely nothing. Oh, wait, no, I just spent all these months doing nothing. I think I'll just have a little wine. No,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I promise I want to call you, and now we can thank to our participant. It's almost more than 1 hour there.
Yeah. And I just want to say, if you want to write me privately, if you have a question or you ever have a problem or something, you can always write to me, and I'll help you as best I can. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. So goodbye. Have a good evening to everyone, and take care and stay healthy and happy and be volunteer.
Nachwamdis, all of you. Nachwamdis.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.